Oh dear.
Greetings. Hello.
Hello.
And welcome to Conversations with Tony Mobley. Today, Conversations with Tony Mobley is simulcast on both YouTube and LinkedIn Live. We also have radio listeners from Cincinnati, Ohio on Z98.1FM.com. On today's Conversation with Tony Mobley, I am talking with Ms. Daria Musk. This is episode 82 of Conversations with Tony Mobley. Thanks to everyone for being a part of the journey. I want to thank the team behind Conversation with Tony Mobley and for all of your hard work. But listen, I need you to go to conversationwithTonyMobley.com. Why do I need you to go there? I need you to go there so that you can participate in this conversation. You can write in questions, and those questions will be voted on. So I need you to go to conversationswithTonyMobley.com. There we have the Mukana chat. And on the Mukana chat, you will be able to ask your questions. The Mukana chat is courtesy of Alex Lindsay and 090. And we would like for you to participate in this conversation. So again, go to conversationwithTonyMobley.com. And without further ado, we are going to get right into it. And I am going to have the opportunity to talk with the fabulous Daria Musk. Thank you, Daria, so much for being with me today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me and us.
Thank you.
And we have Mr. Ram. And Mr. Ram, please tell everyone, so when I reference Ram, they know what your full name is.
My full name is Richard Allen Musk, so that's my...
It's
Richard
his
Allen
producer
Musk.
name.
So you all heard it. So when I say Ram,
Yeah,
I'm talking about Richard Allen Musk.
right.
That's an exclusive.
So thank you, Daria, and thank you, Ram, for being with us today.
Thank you for having us, Tony. It's so great to be back.
I'm so happy to have you, and we're gonna get right to it. So we're going to ask the question that we always ask, and although you have already answered it, we have audience radio listeners who did not hear. So if you can share a little bit more about your life and who you are and how important Ram and your mom have been to you in creating this wonderful, beautiful singer-songwriter, entrepreneur, leading the way in video streaming content prior to the pandemic.
Yeah. You were so sweet. I feel like you just answered it for me. But it's so fun. In the thing that I can see here in the show, it says the question is, who is Daria Musk? And I'm like, this is a very existential question for me. and it's changing all the time. But yes, I am first and foremost a singer-songwriter and a human earthling girl who is here. And yeah, I'm a musician. I am an entrepreneur, and I'm also a founder now. So we can talk about that at some point. And this guy Ram, who just revealed the thing that a lot of people don't know. A lot of people know that Ram and I have been working together for a long time. A lot of people don't know that he's my papa, and that he fell in love with my mama, and they got married a long time ago. And so this guy's been in my life for a very long time. And I was raised with the sound of their music, and I think that really shaped my universe and shaped who I am, and I'm incredibly grateful for it. It was the most beautiful thing to grow up on the side of the stage while they were playing their incredible music. Ram's a composer and clearly a bass player. My mom's a classically trained flutist who went to Juilliard and played all over the world. And so yeah, it was a beautiful thing to grow up in, and that's a little bit about me. Yeah.
And then you broke the internet.
All right.
Oh, and then then I broke the internet. Yeah, right. And then I started doing live streaming before the pandemic was a thing, and that was really cool.
Absolutely.
And a bunch of people found out about it, and it was incredibly rewarding and just magical to accidentally find myself singing to like millions of people from my bedroom through my laptop and seeing the world through their eyes, quite literally, like seeing the sunrise in Norway while I'm standing here in midnight in Connecticut, and things like that were so amazing and so cool. And I really thought that everyone was going to start doing it right away. And fast forward a little while and the pandemic hits and my phone starts blowing up. Everyone's like, were you the girl that did the live stream thing? How do I do this? How do I hook everything up? What do I do? So yeah, that's a little bit about the story, backstory.
Thank you, Daria, so much for sharing that. And I want to say to those who are listening, please put your questions in. We're only going to be here for an hour. And if you have a question to ask Daria, please put it in now.
Yeah.
We have a question from Dan Huber from, I can see he's from Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And it says, his question is, what do you prefer, singing and performing live or creating and recording in the studio?
Yeah. That's really interesting. I feel like we should both answer too. I mean, performing live, singing and performing live has always kind of been my favorite because it also involves connecting with all of you. And that part, what really surprised me actually, starting out just singing for yourself and sort of singing in your bedroom, and you feel these melodies rising up in you and you got to get them out. And it comes from this incredibly pure space that's just you in the air, sort of. And then when I started to share that, my world opened up, like even before the internet, like just, I was an incredibly like kind of awkward kid. And this was the first time I was able to like even connect with my peers and connect with other people, was sort of through the music in that way. I sort of finally felt seen when I started to be able to do that when I was about like 13. So that has always been my favorite in that way. But creating and recording is now becoming a whole new favorite, and I'm really starting to love that process. We're making an album, we're doing all sorts of stuff, and that's just incredibly beautiful and amazing in its own right. So it's all one thing, you always say that, it's all one thing. What do you prefer?
I think I prefer working in the studio only as a composer. I get to spend time alone with the muse, and I think that's really my teacher. I just learn from opening up and figuring out what can come through me, what skills I've developed that can actually actualize what's out there. And I think that's the difference between musicians. It just depends on your skill level, whether you're able to translate the magnitude of what the muse is. It's just an amazing source. I think always constant. I think it's always there. And so I love hanging out with it late at night, mostly because the metamorphic fields are very quiet in the world, so you get more access. But yeah, I actually prefer recording, and I've gotten very big into the tech world. Starting out just as a organic musician, really just a bass player and an amplifier, and then all of a sudden, the computer musical instrument thing started to happen, and that really opened up greater possibilities for me to actualize my compositions, because before that it required musicians to play it. So that was a whole nother game, to hire musicians, to get them together. Were they good enough to play what you had? That was a real challenge. And so once the computer came along, I could sort of play things faster than I could play them. All those sorts of things made it possible. So
yeah, if there's anyone out there watching who's really into like where the Venn diagram of music and tech meet, Ram and I are both really like, we both live in that space in between, but he's been, obviously doing it for so much longer than me, but like if you're nerdy about that kind of old tech, ask him questions about that, because he's not joking. Like the computer musical instrument, the Fairlight, the Fairlight CMI, the first music computer that was like a DAW.
First sampling instrument.
Yeah, he was one of the only people in the world who has one. It's still in our basement.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. Can you, for those techies that are listening right now, can you share a little bit about your setup for tonight, what you're using?
Oh, sure. We're kind of using like a pretty bare bones setup just because we wanted to just hang out with you and just have it be really chill tonight. But so I'm going through an Apollo Twin Duo, right? Is that what it's called?
Yep.
Yeah. The Apollo Twin Duo, which is over here on my desk over here. Ram's going straight into that. This mic is going straight into that. This is a great little Audio Technica. And
we're using an ATEM for the camera.
Right. We're using an ATEM for the camera, using one of my old Sonys for the webcam. And then we're playing Taylor guitars, who are our absolute favorites. This is one of their little cutie, like shorty scale guitars that I absolutely love. It's so adorable. And it's, oh, check this out. Check out the maple, the grafted maple. Oh, so pretty. Quilted maple. So pretty. Yeah.
And she's just playing straight into the mic. She's not lined in.
Yeah, normally I would, but I don't know. I was just feeling
and this is Taylor's
tonight.
Genius bass. If you look at it, it's so tiny, but it's got a huge sound.
Yeah, you'll hear.
And it's really quite an achievement.
Yeah.
Well, we have another question, but I want to ask, are you ready to just give us a little something? And it doesn't have to be long, but however long you would like to play.
Sure. What do you want? Do you want to do?
Down to earth.
Or you want to do treadmill first? Because that's a shorty.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Okay, great. This is a song called Treadmill. And, well, we can talk about it afterward, but yeah. Okay.
All right.
Do you play the keyboard?
Yes, I do. Thank you for reminding. Yes. Yeah. Ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3, go. My thoughts keep running me round like a treadmill. I can't keep it up. Hoping and searching without break. I know I'll never give up. And if I just let them in, would I be the place where I begin? No matter how hard you spin, you end up where you've been. I've been on a treadmill, open up my mind so I can see life without the treadmill. A beautiful vulnerability. You gotta get off to turn on, to catch a dream before it's gone, 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 gone. Yeah, I fill up all the space so I never feel alone. Didn't realize I'm surrounded by people so willing to love. And if I just let them in, would I without the treadmill, yeah. A beautiful vulnerability. You gotta get off to turn on to catch a dream before it's gone, 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 gone. I had a beautiful dream in a world with no gravity, no thoughts to weigh me down. With surreal scenery, comparisons would pale. As far as I can see, I could not fail. Over the treadmill, open up my mind so I can see. Life without the treadmill, yeah. Beautiful vulnerability. You gotta get off to turn on to catch a dream before it's gone, 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 gone. Yeah, a solution, one more evolution, round and round, caught up in this confusion. The solution, one more evolution, round and round, caught up in this confusion. It's scarily airy, the space I'm in fills up the holes where ideas have been. Whoa, yeah, ooh, yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I was clapping so hard that my camera turned green. And so but that's a good problem to have.
Yes,
Thank you so
it
much,
would.
Daria.
Oh, of course, my pleasure. Our pleasure.
So the next question is what has changed since the last time you were on? And that was episode 42.
Amazing. Amazing. And that is crazy. You told me today is episode 82.
That's right.
You're a busy man, Tony Mobley. That is amazing. I have a very strange and loose relationship with temporal matters and time, so I have no idea what I said the last time and when that was. But the probably the main thing that's changed since the last time is, in addition to being a musician and all the things that I've been for a while, I'm officially the founder of a tech startup, which is pretty crazy. And unfortunately, I can't talk that much about it yet because we're in early days and it's kind of stealth mode, but it's very inspired by our whole story and the whole thing that I've been doing with the live stream and all that stuff. And it's been the most remarkable journey. It was one of those pandemic things, people baked bread. I learned how to bake bread and make pizza, but I also started a startup. And it was one of those things where it's just like, is no one else really gonna do this? Do I have to do it? And so then I started, it was like the universe sends you the right people at the right time. I started meeting some remarkable people. There's this incredible guy, Bill. I don't know if he's watching. Bill, we love you. Who I met in Clubhouse of all places during the pandemic when that was really popping. And he's an OG Silicon Valley investor and really brilliant dude. And we started hanging out with him and just like playing music and stuff just for the fun of it. And when I told him the idea, he actually liked it. And fast forward to now, we have just like a rock star team of advisors. I'm meeting the most amazing people every day, every week, and getting to work with people that I really admire and learn so much from every day. And it's really fun and really cool. I didn't expect the startup community to be, I don't know. I think from the outside looking in, it's probably like any industry, right? Where you go, oh, there's the stereotypes, right? And with startup culture in Silicon Valley, there's a lot of like sort of archetype of like the bro-y tech dude, tech bro with like a Patagonia vest and like that kind of thing. And instead of meeting those kinds of people that you imagine, I've just met the most remarkably welcoming, brilliant, kind, open-hearted, diverse, creative, cool people who are so excited to hear something new and so excited to jump in with their whole hearts. And that's just been so gratifying and so beautiful. Especially the female founder communities out there are so welcoming and so cool. I went through an accelerator a few months ago, which is like kind of boot camp for a startup to sort of vet your idea and vet yourself as a CEO and see if you're ready and all that stuff. And I got into a pretty prestigious one just for female founders. And so I have like an entire family of sisters I didn't have before. And yeah, so that's been so cool and so rewarding and so fun, and dovetails with the music so beautifully, like in a way that I wasn't expecting. I think at the beginning I was thinking, can I do both? And I found that one just feeds the other, and it kind of just feels like the biggest song I've ever worked on. You know, like you understand, you've done like full compositions, symphonic compositions that have many, many parts. I usually just write with me and the guitar. So this is the most moving parts I've ever worked with at once. But it's incredibly fun and rewarding. And yeah, so that's probably the biggest change.
Well, we also have another surprise that's happened, I believe, in November of 2022. Mr. Ram has something that he wants to share.
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
yes. Yes, he does. Oh, wait, I have it on my phone. I have it on my phone. Check this out. If you guys can see, this is so cool.
Okay, we are going to actually,
You're going to show it.
Dory,
Okay.
you can put it down because we are showing it to the
Okay.
Oh,
community right
Well,
now.
there you go. Amazing. Ram, you want to tell them? And I can help too
yeah,
if you want.
it's I remastered an album that I did with Wendy, my wife,
My
a
mommy.
while ago, and it was really dedicated to the rainforest. And the remastering actually came out great, so I put it up,
It sounds
and
amazing.
we're really pleased with it. So it's getting a new look,
There it is.
and it's actually sort of was a little bit ahead of its time, I think, in terms of the samples and
It
things we were
really
using.
was. Here, wait, let me toot your horn for you a little bit. So the album, this is a really a brand new album in a way called Xingu, which is named after the Xingu River in the Amazon rainforest. And so my pop and my mama, a long time ago, made an album to benefit the sort of restoration of the rainforest, to save the rainforest when that movement was just starting, which is more important than ever now, really. And he was inspired by the sounds and the instruments of that area of the world and composed what I think is just like the coolest music I've ever heard. This is my Desert Island album. This is the album I grew up listening to from the time I was super, super tiny. And so to me, this music kind of shaped my world, like from the beginning. And so what's cool about that is I think my world was always filled with like world music in a way. Like my conceptualization of music was always global. It was always, this is something we share. Like my parents raised me not on a religion, but on the idea that like we're musicians and there are musicians all over the world. So that's the group that we're a part of. And they're your family. Like any musician you meet anywhere is your family. And I feel like you really hear that in this music. And so it's kind of non-genreable, but it's sort of world. It's instrumental. My mom plays flute. My mom's like I said, a classical flutist who's playing all sorts of cool worldly flutes in this though. And then everything else you hear is this guy. So all the producing, all the composing, all the sampling and all that stuff is all
Didgeridoo.
him. Yeah, he played a didgeridoo, which isn't from the Amazon,
from
but
the
that's
Amazon.
okay. It still sounds really
Sounds
cool.
cool.
But it's just the dopest music ever, and I love it. And I've always wanted to remix, like, and do like songs out of
And
parts of it actually.
I've been listening to it throughout the day,
Have you?
and I want to say thank you so much, Ram. Can you share where people? I know that I was listening to it on Apple Music, but what are the other locations that people can hear the music?
I believe it's
Everywhere.
Spotify,
Yeah.
Apple Music.
It's everywhere you stream music. So yeah, Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, like anywhere. YouTube Music,
Yeah.
all those places. It's everywhere. And we're super excited about it. I don't know if you guys want to hear like a teeny bit so you can get a taste.
Sure,
And I think
absolutely.
for people watching, like if you need something cool when you're driving or when you're working or if you're like meditating, it's pretty pumped up for meditating. There's a few that chill out.
And some of the song pieces are long, so they're not.
Yeah, so it's great. You like put them on in the background and suddenly you're like in this other world. It's very, very cool.
So I mean, like Forest of the Trees, I think.
Wait, I think they should start with Jingu at least a little bit. Like
Oh,
play
okay,
a little
sure,
bit of Jingu, the
sure.
first track, because that's the whole vibe. Let's see if you guys
All
can.
right.
Do you hear it?
I don't know. I don't hear it yet.
They're playing it right, not us.
Taylor, is it playing? I'm sorry.
No worries.
Okay, so
Okay, we
the
can't
the
hear it, but
audience
you guys can hear it.
the audience can hear it. We can't hear it, but the audience
Okay,
can hear it.
we'll
So
be quiet
thumbs
and
up.
let you
And
listen
they're
to it for a
playing
few
it.
seconds.
He's playing the title track? Yeah.
Well, I hope you guys can hear it and are enjoying it and want to check out more because it's so awesome. Was there a different track you wanted to hear them to hear?
Forest for the Trees has the non-streets. It's interesting story about Forest for the Trees.
Yeah, if you want to play a few seconds of track 8, and then Ram can tell a story about it. And thanks, guys, for letting us tell you about this. Like, I'm so proud of them because this album has been living as a CD, like on our shelves for such a long time. It was released like a long time ago, but through like kind of a funny label
new
where
agey thing.
it was like in gift shops and stuff, you know. And I've always thought it was so cool and deserves to like be played at like clubs, you know. It's just the coolest album ever. So yeah, the track 8 is called Forest for the Trees if you want to hear a little bit of that.
I'll tell you the story.
Track 8, guys. Track 8.
That's actually not the one we were talking about, but if you want to hear, that's a great one too. If you want to play track 8, Forest for the Trees, that's a different one. They're all great. It's a playthrough. No skips. Hashtag no skips. Okay.
It's called Forest for
All
the
right.
Trees.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, team, so much for playing those
Yes.
several tracks. We appreciate it. And
Thank
now
you,
we're going to go.
guys. Well,
We're
did
going
you
to go
want
to
tell
the
the
next
story?
question, and Ram, we're going to come back to you and talk a little bit more about that album before we end,
Okay.
if
Okay,
that's okay
great.
with you.
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah.
So we have a question, and the question is: when producing art in the central to your occupation, how do you stay ahead of the creative workflow without feeling like you're being driven by a quota or a deadline?
Ooh, and that's from Josh Kaufman. Hey, Josh. What's up,
Hey,
Joshy?
Josh
Hey,
Kaufman.
Joshy. Okay, so when producing art is central to your occupation, I feel like I'm on Jeopardy or something. How do you stay? This feels like an SAT question. How do you stay ahead of your creative workflow without feeling like you're being driven by quota or deadline? This is a really cool question. I'm not 100% sure I understand it because you should talk too, because you actually do work on deadlines sometimes. I mean, we both work on deadlines sometimes, but rarely with music, I feel like unless the music is for another
Well,
project
for
that we're
film
doing.
scoring, you have to
Yeah.
do that. And that's, yeah.
We do make films and he does score a lot of films. So maybe you should speak to this and then I sort of was taking a more
I'm not
esoteric.
quite, I don't quite
I think he's
understand.
saying how do you stay ahead of your creative workflow? What do you think that means, Tony? How do you stay ahead of your creative
I
workflow
I I,
without
I
feeling
think
like you're
he's
driven by
I
quota or
think
deadline?
he's really asking the question: how do you be creative and be responsible to the deadlines that you are asked to do at the same time?
Yeah, or maybe
How
not
are
feel
you how
pressured
are you
by them.
creative and meet deadlines?
Yeah, I think maybe it's that and maybe he's asking like how do you not let the stress of how things are going to be perceived or deadlines or quota that kind of thing sort of steal the joy of just the creation maybe or I don't know. What would you
Yeah.
say? How do you deal with deadlines and having to work on the clock and stuff? Because
Um,
you've got great answers for that.
I think it has a lot to do with beliefs. You know, it depends on, like, if you believe that time is limited, then it's a struggle. But when I was doing film score things, I would get revisions asked at the last minute, and it seemed an impossible task to do. I had like 8 hours to do it. What I noticed, if I just surrendered to it and did the work and did not think about it, I actually did experience time standing still. And however it happened was kind of miraculous. I had to have it out the door at 6 a.m, and that back then I had to use tape to send DAT tapes to these
Couriers.
Right. So I was amazed at how I was always scared out of my mind, thinking I wouldn't get it done. And then I would just go down and start working, and I just lost myself in the work, and it got done. Yeah. So, but if I came out of that and thought about it and worried and said, there's no way I can get this done, that belief would stop me from being able to do it. So I think you have to challenge your mind and trust the muse, because it really wants to use you. That's what I've learned, that I don't believe in writer's block. I just believe you have to show up, and you have to show up and be willing to leave your personality and ego because sometimes you're going to end up writing things that you didn't intend to write.
Yeah.
You know, so the idea of like, I'm going to sit down and write a hit song has a lot of judgment in that, because what is that exactly? That's only your limited experience and your judgments. But if you sit down to write a song, it could become a hit song because it's coming through you, but it's not the same thing. So
yeah, I think no matter what you do, part of what makes music so universal, it really is such a universal language and so beautiful, is that there is something ephemeral and magical about it. And as much as we little like humans want to try to wrap our brains around it, there's something otherworldly about music. Where does it come from? Is it kind of part of the basic building blocks of matter? Is string theory actually like a musician's theory of everything? We're all vibrating. Like, are we all music? You know, is that, I mean, a sonogram is sound, and it can see through you. So when you hear a song and it hits you in the heart, is it literally going through every layer of, you know, border that you've put up, whether it's your own ego or whether it's your muscles and your cells and stuff, it's going right through you. So there's something incredibly magical about that. And he's right. I'm so lucky to have been raised, you know, by this guy and around these kinds of ideas of surrendering to the part of it that's bigger than you. In that way, like kind of what I referenced before, it is kind of a religion. It is a practice. It is something that you can devote yourself to and feel humbled by in the presence of something greater than yourself. And when you give over to that, it's very, comforting? Yeah. And rejuvenating and reassuring. When you drive from ego, it's very stressful. And then when you kind of let go into it, and I know it sounds kind of airy-fairy, but like, it's really true. Like when I sit down and I like try to write a certain kind of melody, like, okay, I mean, if I'm lucky, I'll end up with the thing I tried to do. But if I prepare and practice and prepare my instrument and learn about maybe what key I'm in or the scales or what mode I'm kind of interested in, and then let go from there, stuff just happens in the air, and I just hit record, and then I'm like, okay, what was that? Like, what just happened? That was cool. And it's really fun to be in that state where you're surprised by it. Like, that's my new favorite thing. I think this makes me think of, I feel like I should say this whenever I get to talk to people, because I wish I had heard it all the way back when I started. I think everybody who hears it, every creative who hears this, wishes they'd heard it earlier. Ira Glass has this whole thing he talks about the taste gap, I think is what he calls it. And he says, the thing with being a creative is you want to write songs or make movies, whatever it is, whatever creative pursuit you're into, because you love it and you develop a taste for it. You see when you're watching movies, oh, I like that, I don't like that, I like that, I don't like that. When you're listening to songs, that resonates with me, I like that, I don't like that. So then you go and you set out to do it yourself. But the problem is when you're first starting out, your skill level does not match your taste level. and so what happens is most people start making stuff, and the stuff they make at the beginning sucks. And then you get really discouraged and you quit. And like, I think the valley of souls littered in the valley of giving up at that moment is just, it's billions of people. And so many of us who have kept going, we're very close to giving up at varying stages in that valley, trying to climb out of that taste gap valley. And I feel like after all these years of doing this myself, I'm finally like closing that gap. And it is so much fun. Like when you just, and he says the only thing you can do to close the gap is time. It's just time and making a ton of stuff. So just make a bunch of bad stuff. It doesn't matter. So just make it, don't judge it, make it, don't judge it. And he's been telling me that since I was little. And I wish I had listened and like understood. Because when you're in that space, you're going, how is making 10 bad songs going to help me make a good song? But it does. I don't know why it does, but it does. When you practice, like my mom's a classical musician, she can practice the same incredibly difficult piece over and over, making the same mistake over and over. And then one day the mistake's not there and everything sounds great. I don't know how that works, but it does. So if anybody's listening who's just starting out, don't be worried if you're not psyched about what you're making today. You're going to be psyched tomorrow, whether tomorrow is a week from now or a month from now, it's going to be worth it. That is, okay, I'm getting off my soapbox now.
Well, do you think that you have to do it so that you are able to connect to the higher power or the spirituality of what is inside of you, as well as connecting to that higher power?
Yeah.
And the reason I asked the question is because when I listen to your music, Daria, most of the time I'm feeling something that's more than just the song
That's so cool.
and your words.
Oh, that means so much to me. That's a dream, man. Thank you. That's
Absolutely.
that's the coolest like comment you could get, because that means maybe if I'm really lucky, I am sort of transmitting that thing that I'm feeling to you a little bit. And that's the magic, like, right, that the idea that we can even do that through this like weird digital like internet going across the air and through states and time and space and stuff, like the fact that that works is kind of bananas. But thank you. I'm touched that that's working. Yay.
And
Yeah.
our mutually good friend Alex Lindsay would say, if you have good audio, if you have good audio,
Yes.
then it makes all the difference. So
Good audio above everything. Yes.
yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for
Thank
sharing
you.
that. We have a question from Clylock Lopez Waterman. Conversation with Tony Mobley, producer, I might add.
Yeah.
Daria, thank you for being here tonight. What do you do when inspiration is not coming? What practice to have to push through and create?
Awesome. Awesome. Talek, it's so great to sort of see you. I'm envisioning your face right here. I see you. And again, like, I think we should both answer, because you're sort of the person who helped shape and frame my experience and my beliefs around all of this stuff. But what do you do when inspiration's not coming? So this is something I used to struggle with a lot more. I think that inspiration not coming is just you judging. I think it's just you judging yourself. I think that that's all that is. And we tell ourselves, oh, I'm not inspired. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to write. And it's just that you feel like crap because you're judging yourself. And like, I think that's all that it is. Because I learned from this guy that, like, the way, I don't know if this is how you see it, like when you talk to me about it, what I visualize is there's kind of like a stream up here that's constantly flowing, that's invisible, of, like, he calls it the muse or inspiration or the music, whatever it is, right? And it's just like always going here, and we just can't see it. And all you have to do is like turn on the faucet and it will just come pouring through. And like, it's never going away. Like, it's always running. And it's us that turn the faucet on and off, you know? And so I think that's kind of all you need to do. And I can talk about some more specific things that I like to do too. Yeah, you go.
I think that's really, my answer to that is that when you don't feel inspired, you have to show up. So it's like anything else, right? Some days you don't feel like doing something. And actually, if you go through the feeling of not doing it, whatever you do, it'll change that experience. But if you just surrender to it, you'll have whatever you have, the depression that you're in or whatever that is. So with the muse, I find it interesting. If you think of it as a constant running source of amazing information that has to be interpreted.
Yeah.
Whoever reaches up might catch, some amazing song. But if you don't reach up, you miss it and it goes to somebody else.
Yeah,
So-
I believe that too.
so-
that it's like
so
it wants to be born.
It wants to
It'll
be
go
born.
to somebody.
and it transcends time. See, that's the other thing, is there is no time up there. So it could be coming from another time period in our world. But remember, we're this tiny planet going through space. And what I think the mistake is that we identify individuals as stars, which is insane, because I think every person represents a star that's in the sky.
Ooh, I
So
like that.
if you just said, well, we're only going to have the Beyonce star, we would have one star.
We love Beyonce.
It
Don't
would-
be confused.
No, I'm saying she's great. She's a star. But I'm saying that there's no other stars now, or there's 5 other stars that happen to be the highest, grossing people. You have to recognize, if you're on this planet, you're part of the puzzle. Your voice is absolutely necessary for the healing and the translation of spirit and love. That's really basically what music is telling you. It's why we feel music. That's the energy of the universe. And
love that.
if you talk to an astronaut,
Which we do.
they're blown away when they leave the orbit of Earth. They see Earth as a totally different thing. It's a totally a revelation, a spiritual experience where they can't believe how we're behaving,
Yeah.
that we don't get it.
Yeah. Shout out to our friend Ron Guerin, who is an astronaut, who has a beautiful book and film. Is the book here? Oh my God, it's right here. I have a little bookshelf right over here. Wait. Oh, I'm gonna plug our friend. This is fun. This is Ron's. Is this his first book or second book? The Orbital Perspective, by Ron Guerin, is an amazing, amazing book. And I believe the film is out. They've been working on it for a while, and it's incredible. It's like astronauts from all over the world talking about their experience, like looking back at Earth and talking about how it changed their view. But anyway, I love how totally wacky and spiritual we're getting, but also on a practical level, because I know there's a lot of like nuts and bolts people that are probably watching as well. Another thing you can just like practically do that I didn't do before, because I used to feel kind of like afraid of music theory. It seemed like really overwhelming to me, for example. If you learn a little bit, that's what I'm noticing about myself over the years, is grab any little bit of something and then suddenly you're inspired. So like you don't have to feel like you're going from a blank piece of paper. So you can learn a little bit of music theory. Like for me, the modes are my favorite part of music theory. And like when you learn about the modes, it's like a magic trick. You're telling me if I play the same exact notes in the same exact order, but I like just focus on the 4th degree of the scale more than the other ones, it's going to sound like a completely different experience. Now it's in Lydian. Now it's not in Ionian. Now it's Lydian. And somehow it sounds completely like otherworldly and magical and sort of hopeful and strange. Or if you start on the 2nd degree of the scale, now it sounds minor. And I was like, what is happening here? It's a magic trick. So stuff like that will just kind of get my ear going in a different direction. There's also really fun, like if you're talking about songwriting, really fun writing exercises you could do. My bookshelf is within reach over here. This is a really fun book. If anybody's ever grabbed this little guy, by Jeff Tweedy, How to Write One Song. There's super fun little goofy exercises in here that are really fun to do, where you like do weird word associations, where you pair verbs with nouns that you wouldn't normally, and suddenly you end up with like this really poetic, cool stuff you would have never come up with. And another thing that I do, I'm a total science nerd. I'm just like really, really nerdy and philosophy nerd. So like lately, I don't know who, I feel like maybe I might be talking to my people here. If anybody is a fan of Timothy Morton and like his crazy like object-oriented ontology and stuff like that. So I'll read a little bit of philosophy and suddenly, whoa, I'm writing songs about like the nature of reality and stuff like that. Or of course, like most people, you can just draw inspiration from your own life or from the stories that you see happening around you. I think that's the fun thing about song. Anything can be elevated to a place where it feels worthy of honoring in a song. Like the way somebody's walking down the street is worthy of talking about in a song, something about it's going to spark. So I think inspiration's always out there, and that was a very long-winded answer.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. You covered a lot of ground. Thank you so much for that answer. And we have another question from our friend Josh Kaufman.
Gosh.
Is boredom helpful to creating music? It seems the computer/internet age caused the extinction of natural boredom. Is
Mm.
overstimulation a problem for creativity?
This is such an interesting question, Josh. I love this because I feel like this whole night is really wrapped in the context of like my childhood because you're here and stuff. And you have touched on such a funny nerve for me because I obviously clearly grew up in like a very cool family. And in our house, as I was growing up, like I never had bedtimes, I never had curfews. There were no bad words except the word bored. I was not allowed to say that word. That was the one word that wasn't allowed, which is hilarious, right? But I know what you mean. And I think that in some ways, yes. And I'd love to hear your thoughts too. In some ways, yes, I think that finding space to not constantly be filling your head with other stuff other people are making and saying is important. It is important to create space, like just between your ears to hear what wants to come through for you. I think that's why it's funny. A lot of people go like, oh, I don't know why I come up with my best ideas in the shower. And it's like, it's because it's the only time you're not attached to a screen now is when you're in the shower. It's the only time where you have space with your own thoughts. So I do think it's important. At the same time, when you're like super hyper and weird like me, sometimes everything feels inspiring. And so, you're watching a TV show and you're listening to a song and you're, taking a walk in nature and everything feels like a song. So it's good to have both in a way, but I agree. I think carving out time every day to have some space from what everybody else is saying is very healthy for your creative flow. Yeah. You agree?
Yeah.
And Daria, I'm going to ask you at this time to share your website again
Oh, sure.
for those who are listening and watching.
Yeah. So I know I was hinting at the new company, and that's not something we can really tell you about yet, but we already have a company, me and this guy, and also my brother, who is the most amazing dude ever, Sage Musk, is also in our company. The company's called Unlabeled Studio, and unlabeled is a really cool word for us. It's a little bit of a wink and a nod to like not being signed and, being independent artists, but it's also the idea of
Controlling your content.
yeah, controlling your content, owning what you make, right? But then it's also more esoteric and clearly that's the way we think about like, not labeling everything so that you can be fully present with it. But anyway, we make films, we make podcasts, we make videos, we make all sorts of stuff. And we have a website, unlabeled.studio, where you can see some of our work and you can reach out and like talk about if you want to like try to do a project with us. We're kind of busy, but we love hearing from people. And the email like submit thing in there is legit. It goes right into my inbox. So definitely write to me and say hi. I would love to meet everybody. That's Sage. He's an amazing little producer himself. He's a chip off the old papa. Amazing dude. And he's creating an incredible project right now. He's writing and producing and scoring and acting in the entire thing. It's going to be amazing. So yeah, we're a creative bunch. That's my mommy playing flute. Yeah. So unlabeled.studio is where you can learn about all the other crazy stuff we do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Please tell us about your continued professional and personal development. And that's for both of you.
Oh, Tony, what a road. What a door you've opened. I am on a never-ending journey to self-actualize. Oh my God, that's so funny. I mean, it's true. I would love to hear from you, but I mean, for me, the first thing I read into that is just, I feel like my whole life I've been on a journey to what is it? Kind of clear the cobwebs of my own mind so that I can create in a more clear and fluid and fun way and be able to share with more and more people. And for me, a big part of that journey has also been working on being as happy as humanly possible. And I've been working on that since I was little, and it's beautiful to get into spaces where you really are feeling that sort of joy, like people know I've gotten on stages and I've talked about these kinds of things. And I used to talk about, fierce joy. And lately I've been recoining. It might be time for a new TED Talk, guys. I've kind of reframed that for myself lately as just like existential joy, like as someone who's also familiar with existential dread, which music is also good for. Just a sense of joy that comes from a wellspring from the inside, like from the same place the music comes from. And I think the more we like, it's funny the way we've been talking about this stuff tonight, but the more you clear away your own judgments, your own fears, that joy just kind of wells up. And from there, at least for me, like I've always marveled at people who can write really great stuff when they're heartbroken or when they're on drugs or something like that. For me, that the clearer and the happier I am, the better I think my output is. And so I guess I felt like saying that out loud because I know a lot of people are on their own mental health journeys, and it's really important
Absolutely.
to prioritize your own wellness and, for your own heart and your soul and your mind. And the things you can achieve and create from that space are so infinitely grander and more effortless than when you're like, oh my God, I'm trying so hard, which is like, that's the state I used to kind of live in, is like, I'm trying so hard. Why isn't it working? And I think that efforting is kind of like, gripping sand and it's slipping through your fingers. So finding that place of peace and just feeling so grateful for every moment. And yeah, that's my personal and professional development. How about you, buddy? Wait, I'll say one thing for you.
What?
I know I'm a motor mouth. I'm sorry. This guy is constantly working on himself musically. I mean, as a person too, but every day, like I know some people grow up and they sort of stop, I don't know, trying new things all the time. And I actually have a song that I've been working on about you because every day I hear him talking to the muse, like talking to music. He's at the piano, he's on his bass, discovering new things all the time. And I know the rest of us in the house like feel so blessed because we get to listen, we get to eavesdrop on that conversation. But he's always asking for more. He's always looking for more. And it's so beautiful. Like I feel like you've given me a model for my life. Like I don't care when I'm an old lady. I hope I'm still, writing and trying new things. And anyway, you talk. I'll get out of it.
Well, that's very kind.
No, it's true.
It's probably not all that pleasant, really.
No, are you kidding? Stop.
A lot of challenge. What do you call it?
Gorgeous music that you're making all the time. Yeah.
The one thing I would say, though, this goes back to the boredom thing. I think it's really important to ask questions about, why you feel something. And what keeps me going is that I believe that you should have joy for no reason.
Yeah.
And give yourself permission to just enjoy your breath every day, because that can go in an instant. And
Absolutely.
my mantra is that I always ask myself, is this coming from hate or fear or love? And if it's coming from fear, then I have to figure out how to love it. And that's what music has taught me, because music is just a constant stream of love, but not love that we understand. It's a much bigger concept. It's like, if I tell you to look at the night sky, do you really know the universe? You think you see it, but you don't know the universe.
Wow.
So love is so expansive and so big. And just have to look
And music is the same.
And music is the same. And if you look at one of the great representations of that is the Beatles. If you look at what they would say is, I want to hold your hand. Now that could have been for a boyfriend and a girlfriend, but that can also be for somebody leaving this planet to say goodbye. It could be a bigger love. So I think when we start to recognize it's such a big concept we don't spend any time with, because we're all fighting and judging over really meaningless things in the world. When you look at what would it be like if we all agreed, why don't we just make it so everybody can live here comfortably and happily, and let's discover what they would do if everybody could eat, it's kind of a simple thing. Why not? Why do you need to have these imaginary borders that make us different? Why do we, if we look different, why is that a problem? It's crazy because people love Star Trek. And I mean,
I love Star Trek.
Yeah, why would they watch something? There's all different things. They got crazy faces that, you know what I mean? But you don't have anybody boycotting that. Yeah. So if people look differently, or, we don't even look at what's living on the planet. We don't give it the value. We think that we're more valuable than the animals, which is ridiculous. So
that's object-oriented ontology.
There you go.
And animism, which I am very much into. Yes.
So I think, when I think of boredom, I actually think of the word bored. It's a board. You're hitting yourself in the head with a board. Instead of asking yourself, why are you bored? Right? And probably I studied with a guy a long time ago who basically his definition of boredom was hostility without enthusiasm. Which is really
good.
Interesting if you think about it, because you have to look at, why are you not just loving? Why are you being bored? You're choosing that. That's a choice. And I think that when you realize that, any note that you play is a choice that you play. Any note that you decide you don't like is a choice that you don't like. Any note that you think is a mistake is a jazz player's heaven, right? Miles Davis used to say there's no wrong notes. And that's because what happens is the muse might be setting you on another direction, right? So you're walking down a path that's well laid, and all of a sudden there's a little thing over here that makes you go somewhere different, and you have a totally different experience. So, I mean, there's so much magic in the keys. You sit at the piano. It's an unbelievable universe, and it doesn't matter. You can play them all at once and then just listen to what's in there with a sustain pedal, and you'll hear music. You'll hear a song.
Yeah.
Now, somebody else would say that's dissonant and that's horrible, but actually it's not. And there's a lot of pieces that have that kind of quality that are in film scores that actually express something. So anyway, so that my secret sauce is that I have young people in my life, and they keep me informed of what's going on in sort of challenging some of what I was taught when I was growing up that may not be great beliefs. And you kind of reduce the variation, and you try to just keep, keep some joy in your life. And music is total joy for me all the time. So I feel like there's no retirement. I mean, why would you retire? You just
Absolutely. I agree with you. I consider myself a lifelong learner, and I'm always challenging myself to try to learn new things and embrace this technology. And you don't know, Daria, but I probably should not be here having this conversation with you, but because I was interested in continuing to learn new things and found office hours and Alex Lindsay and community, and that is the reason why I am able to have a conversation with you. So I get it, Ram. I get it. So I just want to say thank you so much again for being here. We have just a few more minutes, so I'm going to ask the question that's before us.
This is the one.
And after that, can you play us another song?
God, yes.
And
I was like,
and then I think we have
over.
maybe two more questions after that.
Yeah,
so
totally.
This question is from Zachary Sorensen of Queensland, Australia, who is watching and a participant in the team for Conversation with Tony Mobley. Awesome. Do you do all of your production yourself?
Yes.
Yes, he does.
Yes.
And then
all right.
And then he does a lot of my production, all of my I am a beginner. Talk about a lifelong learner. I'm still a beginner when it comes to production. I mean, I can cut a demo, but that's a whole other universe that I really, really, really want to get good at. Because when I do go and goof around a little bit, I have so much fun. So yeah, he does most of my production. And also my brother Sage is really becoming so awesome at that. And we're starting to have a lot of fun goofing around in his studio together too. Yeah. And I don't know if that was like a more techie question. He uses Pro Tools and Logic. I use Logic to do demos and goof around and stuff. Sage uses Logic. We have lots of cool plugins and all sorts of stuff like that. Yeah.
So they're telling me that we're running out of time. So can you just share
down to earth?
Yeah.
A brief, give us a little bit of music, and then the last question is: you're speaking to the world. What do you want them to know?
Well, this is perfect because the last song is called Down to Earth. So I'll say the thing we want the world to know is this song then.
All right.
All right. Okay. Ready? I got my head up in the clouds, but you're down to earth. I'm feeling something deeper than I expected for what it's worth. Oh, didn't notice that as I've been moving myself through this world. I've been holding my breath until I met you and I exhaled. And hey, between you and me, I think we got the best of both worlds. And hey, between you and me, I think we got the best of both worlds. Hey, I thought I knew what you would be, but that's just me, I overthought. Don't get me wrong, it's better than I imagined or understood. Oh, talking like this, to be honest, feels like breathing some air. Kinda elevated, hyper present of you, so aware that hate between you and me, I think we got the best of both worlds. And hey, between you and me, I think we got the best of both worlds.
Thank you so much, Daria. Really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for being with us tonight. Conversation with Tony Mobley is produced by valued audio-visual professionals who meet daily on Office Hours Global, hosted by Alex Lindsay. Thank you, Z98 FM.1, LinkedIn Live, YouTube, Conversation with Tony Mobley. And we want to thank Mr. Tom Ferguson for our conversation last week. If you have time, please go back and look at the 80-plus episodes of Conversation with Tony Mobley. And I think you will find something there that you like and hopefully is helpful. Conversation with Tony Mobley can now be heard on 98.1fm.com. Thanks to Mr. Taylor Sutherhouse and the team behind Conversation with Tony Mobley. Thank you, Ms. Daria Musk and Mr. Richard Allen Musk, for being here with me today, for doing the work and being the people that you are. Thank you so much. Next week, Conversation with Tony Mobley is going to have Mr. Michael Forrest of Squares TV. Take care. Good night. God bless. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you.